Hey YouTube, Brandon here. Welcome back to my mini documentary series where I walk you through kind of a behind the scenes take of what it's like to create a software startup. The software startup I'm creating is called Doink Disc Golf. It's a digital card game that disc golf players can play to kind of mix things up and have a great time. To see more information about it, definitely click the first video that I made here. It should be a link somewhere on the screen, some up here. Like I said, just starting out the series, so I'm learning YouTube. But this week we have a lot in store, so I want to dive right in and kind of cover what we have to knock out this week. So let's go ahead and look at it. So the first thing that we're going to be doing this week is actually launching last week's video. I've never made a YouTube video before, so we have a lot of work to do on editing, but I have everything laid out. Now it's just editing it, making it look nice, and uploading it. I'm actually using a software I've never used before. It's called DaVinci. If you guys have any recommendations on video editing software that you think is fun, easy, definitely let me know. It was just free. I like free, so I'm sticking with that for the meantime. Other than that, we're going to be doing some customer support, messaging, responding to a bunch of our users, and I want to talk about a technique called batching that is talked a lot about in the 4-Hour Work Week book, so I want to elaborate more on that. Other than that, we're going to be doing some more Google Analytics so we can deploy our YouTube ad campaign, because right now we're only doing Facebook. If you want to see what we have done for our Facebook ad campaign, I definitely would recommend checking out last week's video. Other than that, this week we kind of have some chores, sending out some shirts and some checks to some people that we're doing collaborations with. And lastly, just doing some, you have to do some coding in the week or else it's just not a good week. So we're going to be doing some bug fixes and adding a few minor improvements to the game. So let's go ahead and dive into making our first YouTube video. Let's go. Look at it. We're live. We are YouTube famous with 0 views, 0 likes, and 0 dislikes, most importantly. So it took a lot more work than I thought it was going to, but hey, doing something for the first time always takes the longest time. So each time it's going to get faster from here on out, but I want to show you guys success. YouTube was actually really cool and helped me with some of the music sections where you can't use certain music, but you can use other kind of music for monetization purposes, and they actually let me substitute in some of their music to make sure I didn't have to remake the whole video. So super nice. YouTube, I really like that feature. Okay, so today has been a pretty busy day when it comes to answering customer support, feedback, questions, and everything under the sun customer support wise. Like I mentioned earlier, I really like to batch my tasks that revolve email just so I'm 100% focused on reading, writing, and responding and knocking out tasks really fast instead of just kind of hopping around. So I want to give you a sneak peek of kind of like what it looks like behind the scenes when I'm going through new card ideas and other customer supports. So what it looks like on my end. So for example, I got an email from Tyler saying, submitting feedback that, hey, one of the cards was unclear, called All In, and he was 100% right. So thank you, Tyler, for pointing that out. And then Tyler proceeded to go to town with submitting a bunch of awesome card ideas. As you can see, he submitted like 8 or 9 different card ideas. All of these awesome. We were actually able to add a lot of these into Doink cards. I'll put a little picture below of what his cards look like adding in the game. But basically, we add a little green icon in the top right to let people know, hey, this is a player-sponsored card. People and players just like you that are playing the game came up with these. If you have your own idea that's creative and would be awesome to play, add it. So that was awesome. Thank you, Tyler. And then we had a few other customer support. So like I said, this is what it looks like behind the scenes working with a lot of your customers. And like I said, Doink would not be as far as it was today without customers basically sharing their mind. So thank you to everyone who has already submitted your feedback, and I'd love to hear what everyone else thinks about the game too. So yeah, so that's what it looks like. And now we'll move on to the next task. Currently, I'm in the middle of adding my conversions to Google Tag Manager so I can know when a person has clicked on the purchase button, if they've gone to a certain page, and really track a few key metrics that will help me determine really how successful my ads are doing. And so far, it is a lot more confusing than Facebook. Facebook gives you a really nice, basically web browser to where you can just click on buttons and say, this is a purchase button, here's the value I want you to add, and a bunch of other things that make it very, very easy. On Google Tag Manager, you have to set this all up yourself. So I want to show you what I've learned so far and what I'm about to copy for pretty much the rest of this process. So here's what I've learned so far. Basically, each tag, you can give it a name. So in this example, I'm adding the Doink cards was purchased. What kind of type is this? Well, this is a conversion tag because I want to know when a user converts. And then you get to set a firing trigger. Now, this was the part that messed me up the most, and I want to show you guys why. What I think makes this process a lot harder than Facebook ads is the fact that you have to set up your own variables instead of just clicking. So let me explain. Right now for the Doink Cards purchase tag, you have to set up a few fields in there, such as like your conversion ID, your conversion label, which are generated when you make a tag, but then you have to set up things such as your conversion value. So for example, I want to set up the Doink Cards price. Well, instead of just clicking on the website with some sort of editor, I basically had to use JavaScript to go in on my shop page and then find the third price element that said a certain class and then get it and trim it. That was a lot. And then also when it comes to a transaction ID, it says, hey, it's best if this is random. But if you want to make a random class, you once again have to go generate a random variable and then substitute it in. That's what these curly braces at the end. Don't my curly braces look like a 3 with a stutter? If your hand could have a stutter when writing a 3, that's what it would look like. But yeah, that's why variables are a lot more confusing, and it's taken a lot more time to learn than Facebook ads. Also, when it comes to firing events, it's kind of the same thing. You have to create a firing event and basically going through the same process of giving it a name, saying what kind of type it is, and then setting up a filter. So in this case, it's click classes, and whenever someone clicks a class that has this certain text in it, it will identify it and fire that event. So it's really, really dynamic, and it gives you, as the developer, a lot of power. But if you're a non-coder, I could see this being very, very hard to do, or just take a long time without a lot of practice. But now that I have this set up for purchasing the app, which is the most important part of the whole process, it'll be a lot easier now to track when people go to certain pages and click on certain text. So let's keep going and knock this out. So right now I'm about 95-ish% done with setting up the ads in Google AdWords. The only thing I have left is to set up the different ad groups. The training I was taking mentioned setting up a different ad group for computer, phone, and tablet. I'm not sure how helpful that's going to be, but I'm going to try it as a baseline. After that, I have to set up audiences for retargeting. So if they watch the video, but they just don't want to buy it at this time, I'll be able to show them the ad again later at a different date. So that's what we have left. And then after that, make some money. But we'll see how that goes. Advertising is expensive, so I'll be curious if I run at like a 50% loss, a 25% loss, or if I'll be profitable. I don't know. We'll find out, and I'll be sure to try and share some numbers when we get to that. So have a good night. Good morning, everyone. So I finally finished up the YouTube advertisement. It took a little bit longer than I thought it was going to, but I finally got the audiences set up so I can track if someone visited or looked at an ad. So like I just mentioned, my YouTube ads are officially up and running, and I wanted to share with you guys what resources I use to go from knowing absolutely nothing about Google AdWords to actually deploying these ads online. So let's look at them. The most helpful training by far out of all the YouTube videos I watched was Kyle's YouTube ads step-by-step tutorial. Kyle really does walk you through the entire process from beginning to end and doesn't leave any areas where you get confused. He also shares a bunch of tips and tricks on how to save money and get more bang for your buck when you're creating YouTube ads. The other training that was super helpful was Alex Becker's YouTube ad guide. It's a 5-part series that walks you through why YouTube ads are great, and then around episode 3 he actually shows you kind of how to start setting them up for success. As I was creating my YouTube ad campaigns, I did run into a few issues when it came to setting up conversions. So for example, if someone purchased my game, if someone went to the shop page, or if someone subscribed to the email list, I wanted to know and track that event. However, it's not as straightforward as Facebook, so I end up watching this video by Loves Data, and he really did a great job of explaining how to set up variables, track events in Google AdWords, and this was the missing piece in the other training. So I definitely recommend, if you're having any troubles, watch out him as well. So like I mentioned earlier, this is my first time creating YouTube ads, so I'm kind of excited and nervous to see how people react to it on YouTube, and I'm excited to look at some of the data when it comes in. I will definitely keep you guys posted on how everything turns out. My game plan going forward is to check in probably every 12 hours just to make sure that everything's running effectively, and then after 4 days, make a pivot to determine if I need to add more placements, take away placements, and change my ad. So I'll keep you guys posted. All right, it's Friday, it's the end of the week, and we are almost done. We have 2 big categories left, and then we're done. The first one is some chores. We got some odd and ends. We got to order some more shirts. We got to send out some shirts, and then we also had to send out some checks to some of the groups that we're sponsoring. And let me show you what these shirts look like real fast, because I think they're pretty cool. All right, so here's what the shirt looks like. It's got a frocket on the front. It's kind of hard to see, but yeah, it looks pretty nice. Got the nice logo on it. And then on the back, we're representing even bigger with Doink Disc Golf. I think these shirts look pretty sleek. They're navy. It's a little hard to see in the camera. But yeah, we're sending these out to winners from a previous survey. And then we did a giveaway recently. So we got to order, like I said, another 10 or so shirts to give away. So yeah, so these are what they look like. And I'm excited to get these sent out. And I think it'd be really cool to see some of the people actually wearing these out and about. So yeah. So the first coding task that we're going to work on is adding a discard button. So here's why we need to add this new feature. Currently, if you play a card, the only option you could do is either play the card on someone or close it. But what we need to do is say you're playing infinite twos and you don't like the 2 cards that you have. What would be nice is if you could just press discard card and a new card would take its place. So that's why we need to do it for the infinite 2 game mode, and also there's a card in the deck called Toss'em, which basically says pick 2 players and make them throw away a card. Currently, there's no way for them to actually throw away a card. What they'd have to do is click their own name and then press play card, play it on themselves and ignore it, but it's just not what we need to do. We could be a little bit cleaner with it. So this is what we're going to knock out first. So let's knock it out. Good news, the discard button is now fully working, and I want to show you guys what it looks like now. So whenever a player now goes to play a card, they have the new option to just press discard card. They also have the option to press play card and close. Play card is not enabled until they click a person, but discard card, that's a lot of cards, whenever you press it, it just goes away. To get this to work, all I had to do was basically just edit the play card function or whatever I have it called in the cloud to just say, hey, if the person is discarding a card, don't show notifications. Because if I had played a normal card, what you would have seen is a notification just like this. So all I had to do was just change that little bit of functionality, and now it works perfectly. So now we're on to the next coding task. Hey YouTube, sorry for the quick hard change. I actually just got back from vacation and I'm getting over a little cold. So, like I said, sorry for the hard transition, but I wanted to show you guys where I left off with what I did for my advertising campaign, and then also show you the results of having this campaign run for 2 weeks in the case of Facebook and a few days in case of YouTube. So let's dive in and look at some of the results. To help make this easier, I've made a table that shows the different advertising platforms, YouTube and Facebook, and then I'm going to show you guys the impressions, the click-through rate, so people coming over to my landing page, how many people went to my shop, and how many people end up purchasing it, just so you guys can understand like percentages and everything, and kind of see like the ups and downs of what happens when you start marketing a new product, software product, on the internet. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing some of the numbers you guys, tell you like if I'm excited, disappointed, and then also tell you kind of what I'm planning on doing next. So let's go ahead and dive into some of the numbers. The first number that I want to talk about is impressions. So you'll see that I end up getting 184,000 impressions of my ad on Facebook over this time period, which is insane to know that 184,000 people, well, it's actually probably not people, but like over 100,000 people probably saw my ad. And then on YouTube, over honestly about half the time, 82,000 people saw my ad. So that's awesome to think about, and just to know that your videos out there being shown to the world. So let's dive closer into clicks. So this is where we actually kind of start to look at the click-through ratio, which is important. So remember, if we're doing a funnel, 184,000 people is how many people that came in. Sorry for my handwriting, and it's all just narrowing down. So we really want a high click-through rate. So when it does come to click-through rate, I end up getting about a 2% click-through rate on my Facebook ads and a 1.4% click-through rate on my YouTube ads. So I was a little disappointed in my Facebook ads. I thought when I opened it up to, basically I combined all my audiences, my 3 main audiences, I combined them into one.
before running this ads consistently over a period of like 2 weeks, I was getting closer to actually a almost 4% click-through rate, which is crazy. Like it's like high threes. So it's sad to watch it drop, but that's expected. And then with YouTube, I generally was expecting a higher click-through rate. 1.4 is actually pretty low. So I don't know if I didn't do a good job of setting up links or what. So I'm going to dive and look into this a little bit more, because I'm basically getting half the number of people that interact with my content to actually click forward. So that was a little upsetting, but I'm going to do a little investigating on that later and figure out what actually happened. The next number I want to show you guys is actually the shop. So this is how many people were on my landing page and clicked to go to the shop page. For Facebook, it was awesome. About 20%, 21% of the people that were on my landing page converted and were interested and went to the shop page, which is really cool. And then people that were on Facebook and actually went from my shop page and decided to purchase the game was about 9% on Facebook, which is a pretty decent funnel. I think I could definitely work to improve that last number, the purchase percentage, by putting some more landing page information on there. So, but when it comes to YouTube, I don't know how much I trust Google Analytics at this point, and I'll explain why more in a second. But when going from my clicks to basically people on my landing page to my shop, there was a 4% conversion rate, which is like a fifth of what it was on Facebook, and then it really did well. The people that did go to my shop page, a high percentage of them bought. So it's kind of wonky. The one thing that is confusing me is the fact that it says I only have 14 purchases on YouTube. However, if I go and look at the amount of money that was spent, it was closer to like 36. So it's weird. Basically for both Facebook and YouTube, only half the numbers of purchases are getting tracked. And I know a lot of it has to do with the new iOS 14 update, because people can opt out of getting their information tracked. And when they do that, it's basically blind to me. So yeah, this is what the numbers look like. I don't know how much I can trust them. I do need to do some more customer journey tracking on my end, so I can go, person went from here to here to here to here. But yeah, this is what it looks like. There's definitely a lot of improvement. So let's go ahead and talk about what I want to do differently next, and we'll go from there. So the last thing that I'd like to talk about in this video is the improvements I plan on making to my marketing strategy going forward. So the main thing that I plan on doing is narrowing my focus. So for YouTube, I want to narrow my placement focus. And what I mean by that is I put my I put my YouTube ad in front of about 500 different videos and a few different channels, kind of just to throw stuff against the wall and see what would gain traction. And I definitely noticed some channels would gain a lot more traction than others. If people are watching very serious professional disc golf, they might not like people playing a game like this. They're very serious about the sport, whereas people that are watching like a channel that's just fun, they really like it. So I'm going to focus on the channels that really did well and cut my losses. And same with Facebook. I had 3 very strong audiences that I've done, or that I found through Facebook testing, and I think it's time to cut one of them and just focus on disc golf and one other. So, like I said, my click-through rate went from about high 3s to 2%, and I think it had to do with the fact of combining everyone together and kind of throwing in a losing audience in the pile. So I'm going to cut that out going forward. So yeah, so this is, experiment, try things, lose some money, unfortunately, but learn a lot. So hopefully future efforts will be profitable. So this is all I got for this week. Thank you guys for watching. I have episode 3 coming up here soon, and hopefully I won't have a cold in the next one. But thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions or comments, throw it down below, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. Talk to y'all soon. Bye-bye.